What's up, everyone? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and we are back from a 1 week hiatus. I apologize. Life happened last week. No
Like,
vacation, no fun stories. You lost a crown in your teeth,
oh,
and I had to go run my better half around because her car was in service, and we just could never link up after that.
in the busyness of life, sometimes things come up that I mean, and for the listeners too, I think it's important. You don't get to hear the podcast, the award-winning podcast, but for us, we don't get a chance to have our weekly talks, and we go through some withdrawals too.
Yeah, I mean that's really true, and I don't think people realize that to a certain extent of how much I look forward to these conversations on Mondays or Tuesdays. Whenever we get a chance to record, because I think you and I find different ways to relate to each other on different levels as the show goes on, and I think that says a lot about the show and helping us understand each other and ourselves.
You know the sad thing about it, Scott?
Hmm.
I know that for about 6 years now, 6 years plus, you and I have talked once a week for
Yeah,
6 years.
yeah,
I don't even talk to my own mother every week for 6 years.
yeah.
So the importance of this podcast is huge to both of us. And not only did we deprive our listeners last week, but we deprived ourselves. And frankly, that's why this was like utmost priority. I'm actually in the middle of having knee surgery and a lobotomy while we're doing the podcast, so that we didn't miss this week.
And I am in the middle of trying out for MasterChef Junior as
So
we talk.
yeah, so
So
that's the dedication we have this week
yeah,
for the
absolutely.
audience and for each other.
And it's funny because you're right. Earlier on in our run with the podcast, had we missed a day, you and I would have moved our schedules around through heaven and high water to get our show in. Whether it be recording at 4 a.m. before we went to work, or late night when we had a few minutes, or even on a lunchtime. But I think as this progresses, I think it's okay for us to realize that sometimes life happens and we just have to, if we miss it, we miss it. There are other things in life that just take precedent at that point in time. And that's okay. It's not ideal for the show, but to our 4 listeners, we do apologize. The world is a dumpster fire as we know it. And we are the band of the Titanic as this ship sinks. So we hope you enjoy us with our little
I
rants every week.
I I wonder too. I mean, you mentioned dumpster fire. I mean, this is about the second to the last week, or this is the last week in July.
Yeah.
And Arizona, we're coming up to our primaries on August 2nd. So, you know, it it just seems like every state must go through the same crap, that they have to get ready for the primary elections, and then go through, and it's just a nightmare. So, this is our one time to relax and get away from all the noise,
Yeah. It's
to make
funny.
some noise. We're making noise. Don't get me wrong. We make noise too, but we're getting away from the noise of stuff that's really just this time of year. I mean, this time of the season, every 2 years we have to deal with this crap. So
Oh God, and it feels like it gets worse when you start dealing with the politics of, or the advertising for the politics, and I'd say especially over the last since the 2016 election moving forward, uh, the world has gotten a bit darker, more crass. Um, I would say maybe a little more blunt or less cautious of other people's thoughts and feelings. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I would say that we've talked about this in other podcasts, that we have gotten a lot less concerned about the words that we say, because we live in a world where I can say whatever I want on social media and there's no repercussions.
That's
Or
very
I
true.
can say anything over the phone, because I don't have to see that person.
So, as we live in a world like that, I've noticed with this election cycle, I've done very good over the last decade or so with the internet of avoiding political ads. Any shows I
Oh,
watch on my DVR, I can fast forward through them. I can just ignore them, skip them on platforms. And I'll be honest, if I see one on social media, I always flag it as offensive. I don't care what party you
oh,
are.
really? Wow. Okay, okay,
Yeah, I do not like them. I think they're just bad. So
okay.
the other week I'm in a company vehicle and it's an older one, no Bluetooth, no satellite radio. So I'm forced to listen to terrestrial radio. And I got to tell you, man, it was nothing but political ads, and some of them were so outrageous and so just bombastic is the only word I can think of that can even you know try to describe how some of these ads went, and they're all half truths, lies, and whatever else. They're scare tactics, and it makes me sad because there's a certain population that still believes that the media doesn't lie because they haven't lied to them in their minds for forever, so they're going to listen to it. And whether it's a little R or a little D next to your name, if you're a politician, that's who they focus on. And the amount of buzzwords thrown around this election cycle, and the amount of just misleading material put out there, I'll be honest, is disgusting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think that like I have not heard a lot of ads in the recent weeks that inspires or brings out the best qualities in myself. Like, does not motivate me to think, wow, we're trying to go in a positive direction somewhere. I mean, if it's not destroying someone's reputation, you know, making up insinuations about someone's mental state or mental direction or life choices, it's not on the radio as a political ad.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's nuts. The fact that people are still trying to push critical race theory as something that actually happens in public schools is beyond understanding to me. Because the man running for state superintendent, I believe it's Tom Horn,
Yes.
on all of his posters up here is keeping critical race theory out of the schools. Again, if this man's the leader of our education system, he should know that's a college level course. That's a college level theory. Of course, it's not in our schools. I mean, and it's not going to get in there. It's just dumb things like that. It's guaranteeing our election safety in soundness, making sure it's
Yeah.
nothing's rigged or nothing's bought. And the people that are pushing that are the ones that are screaming that they were screwed over 2 years ago, but still lost after all the audits from their people.
Well, I mean, to kind of piggyback that, it seems like you cannot go anywhere without putting an ad up that causes fear, creates a fear for someone. Like that's the only emotion that motivates someone to vote, right?
Yeah.
They're the problem, they're the bad thing, or critical race theory, that's the bad thing. A vote for this candidate is a vote for all the net bad things that scare you. So vote opposite to avoid being scared.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that it's not frightening. It's disappointing that the only way you can motivate someone to vote anymore is basically by fear. You know
Yeah.
that we're so afraid of things, of the many things that could happen, that we have to really focus on that and make up innuendos and lies about something just to get someone to vote your way. I don't live a life by fear. I don't live a life by fear. I don't try to make decisions based on what could possibly happen that's bad. I try not to live my life like that. For example, when I travel overseas, I don't initially think, well, I can't travel to this area because of all the bad things I've heard about this area. I just don't live like that. I had a friend who they never could go to Mexico because, oh, it's such danger down in Mexico, and the drugs are so bad that you step in Mexico and you're shot and killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't live my life like that. Well, the same thing with these ads, like the critical race theory. First of all, most people, and this is, I'm not making a condemnation. I think I'm making more of a general statement here that could include myself. Most people don't even really know what critical race theory is, but it's that buzzword of be afraid of it, be scared of it. Anyone who talks about it is evil. That is so pushed so much on these ads that it does. It's like, wow, okay. I mean, Of all the things that we want to teach someone, critical race theory.
It's not high on the list.
Well, how about this? From what I've read about it, it's simply like you said, a collegiate class that focuses on how the judicial system goes against certain ethnic minorities.
The problem in that case too
It's an
is,
acknowledgement. It's an acknowledgement of, let's be honest, it's acknowledgement of something that is out there. Not
well,
that it's the law of the land, but just something that's to be open to, and people are so afraid of it that a 3-year-old's going to be taught that in school is just ridiculous. But
in that case especially, the fact that it has theory in the word grouping should alone tell you that it's not factual. It's a theory. It's an idea, but that's not how it's pushed when it comes across the media. When you see the words "stop critical race theory" in writing on a campaign poster or whatever, what have you, it's mind numbing to me, because it's what people stare at. That's what people focus on. And what scares me right now is, you're right, this is the week leading up to the Arizona primary. So right now it's just Republican versus Republican, or Democrat versus Democrat. And then the winners of those races go on to take on the opposite party in the general election in November.
yeah,
And I'll be honest, man, I'm watching these parties tear each other apart in the same party. I don't want to, from August to November, I'm nervous, because it's going to be a nonstop shit show, and I don't really want to have to listen to it.
well, and I think that I think another thing that I've always been kind of sensitive to is how many of these ads are put up by groups that aren't even affiliated with the candidate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a political action committee that's not even affiliated with a candidate. They just want to talk shit about from their own political view about whatever candidate that they're ripping on. And they're not even part of the candidate that they're promoting. They're not even part of their campaign.
They're just
This
copying.
candidate has not
Yeah.
approved this message. Well, then if they're not approving the message, then stay the hell out of it. Like, why are you even involved? Then donate to that person's campaign.
Yeah.
Don't hide behind this. Well, we're just going to put something on TV that, but it's not endorsed by anyone. We're just putting it on TV. Well, as far as I'm concerned, then why should we take it seriously?
Yeah. You know what makes me laugh though? It's like, you see like the I guess you'd call them character breakdowns of these candidates on TV. Like, they'll do like special interest pieces to talk about their history and who they are and what they stand for. And most of them are fluff pieces. I don't know if you saw the viral video of Blake Masters' wedding reception. He's a Republican senator candidate for Arizona. Have you seen this video? Where
I don't think so. No.
his best friend at Blake Masters' wedding got up there in part of the speech and said, "Hey, I used to think you're a great person, man. I don't know what happened to you, but I don't know what you believe anymore, but it's wackadoo, basically. Like, I don't know who
Holy
you
shit.
are anymore." I mean,
Wow.
and
Wow.
that makes me wonder, like, these people that are running, like, are they trying to capitalize on these buzzwords and these fears of people, and hoping that they can get this uneducated sector that's just going to focus on what their favorite news station tells them.
I don't know. I kind of think that at some point, um, frankly, these ads are only to attract a small percentage of people, right? Like, I don't care if the white knight came and said, "I'm going to, I'm endorsed by Donald Trump and I'm a Trump conservative, but I save kids and I help the orphans." I would not vote for you. So my vote is, you're not going to sway me with whatever political ad you put up. You're not going to sway my vote, right? Just like if someone says, "Oh man, I mean, Mark Kelly's the greatest person on earth, and he saves little kids, and he jumped into a fire and saved an old lady from dying." There's 40% of the population that will never vote for him.
Yeah.
So you can make up a bunch of stuff, and for a lot of people, they're not going to change their vote. They're not going to change the vote. They're not going to Oh, well, I was gonna vote for Blake Masters, but now I think I'm gonna vote for, Mark Kelly. That doesn't not.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. I feel like everyone that's set their ways for how they're going to vote is set in their ways. I feel like the people that they're being pandered to, it's kind of a waste of a pander because it doesn't matter. They're looking for the letter next to the name more than what the person stands for.
Well, and
And
and and frankly, I mean, don't you? I find it a little disingenuous that people will vote for someone that if they did that in real life with these same people, like if you worked with someone like that who acted that way, you wouldn't spend 2 minutes worrying about talking to, being a friend with those.
yeah,
And yet you'll vote for those people. Like, for example, and I apologize to the four listeners, but Paul Gosar. What does Paul Gosar stand for that any person would say, you know what, boy, he's the nicest guy in the world. I wish I could be a friend of his. He just is so nice and sweet and loves people. And yet people vote for him. And in the county that or in the district he represents, overwhelmingly vote for him.
yeah,
But they wouldn't put up with that crap if it was just a regular person or a person that they had to work with. They wouldn't put up with that crap. So why
yeah.
do they not put up that crap in their personal lives, but political lives? Oh, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
And that comes down to they've been told that this is what he's supposed to represent. So this is clearly what he represents based on your belief system. And it's a weird politics is a weird mind fuck. You know, it's basically with the advancement of social media over the last 20 years, how what they've done to remove the ability for people to think on their own and just scare them into doing what they need them to do. It's pretty amazing from a social experiment perspective if you look at it. But man, I tell you what, it's scary. It's just an ugly situation. That's why you know I really am not joking when I say this country's a dumpster fire right now. It's like we're not getting better; we're only getting worse, and we don't give either side enough time to fix the things. We just swing back and forth in this pendulum, hoping that the other side will fix what the previous side did, but on a shorter time frame. So nothing ever gets solved. It just gets made cluster fuckier.
Well, and I think that in my opinion, the vast majority of us, I don't even think truly understand how the system works to begin with. And so that is why when people, believe, well, Biden caused the inflation and Biden has ruined the economy and Biden has done this. I think it's easy to say that because they think, oh, well, he got elected in July 2021 and it's been a dumpster fire for a year and a half. So it's got to be his fault. And they don't realize, we as a society don't understand how the system works. We don't
Mm-hmm.
understand how that system works. What are your thoughts about some of these stories that are coming out where Democratic groups are supporting uh, a candidate that has a weaker chance of winning the general election? And so in the primary, they're supporting monies to that candidate so they win the primary because they know that when the general election comes up, the Democratic candidate is going to just totally trounce the Republican candidate.
I think that's a dangerous game. I think I understand the game theory of it. I understand the theory of this person's clearly crazy. They're an extremist to the nth degree of the opposite of my political beliefs. But I know I can beat them in a general election. I don't know if I can beat this person closer to the middle. The problem when you start hoping those outliers, those extremists start winning to go on to the general election, now you've given that brand of thinking and political belief system more credence, and you help it breed more than anything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I mean,
how about
you're,
this?
you're basically you're encouraging this, thinking that okay, I know a sane person will see right through this and not want to vote for that person. And as long as my candidate on the other side presents a strong, focused, sensible argument, they can beat that extreme candidate. But I think we're starting to see those extreme candidates are sneaking through, and they're doing nothing but cause chaos on both aisles of our government. You know?
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of that Eddie Murphy Delirious comedy show back in the '80s when he was talking about Jesse Jackson running for president back in 1984. And Eddie Murphy was saying, but you white people are crazy because you guys get drunk and then you go to the voting booth and say, hey, let's vote for Jesse Jackson. Then you wake up the next morning, he fucking won. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's what you have to worry about is you promote these people and then they somehow win.
yeah.
They
Because
somehow win, and
you're banking,
and that is a fear.
you are banking on that you're going to push this person over the top in an inter-party election, hoping that they continue to fracture that party even more, so their own party, votes against them to make sure they don't win. But in all reality, a lot of those people that are voting are still going to vote party line because they know ultimately, the stuff they want to see will happen,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
that's a real fear. And the fact that we're taking a step back, socially as a country, every day we're taking further steps back is scary, and really kind of sad that this is even being allowed to happen.
Well, and I think that we definitely have gotten away of what we want out of a politician. You know what I mean? Like I think we've gotten away from that because I have to be honest, I look at some of these people who I don't see what they do in once they get in, I don't see what they do. Like this Marjorie Taylor Greene. You talk a lot, but you're not doing anything. You're certainly not doing anything to represent or do anything for the people of your district. And because of that, we've gotten away from what do we want politicians to do? And maybe it is because there's everyone is so tired of, oh, these politicians don't do anything for us, they don't care about us. And let's get someone who will rock the boat. That was the big thing. Let's get an outsider in to rock the boat. Well, the problem with outsiders is they don't know how the system works.
Yeah.
And so they like, I mean, Donald Trump at one point talked about defaulting on the federal debt, just letting it go in default and just no, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's not as simple as what you've done 1,000 times with your companies by filing for bankruptcy. You just can't do that. But they don't understand. We have a governor candidate in Kerry Lake who's never served in politics. What the hell do you know about being a governor of a state other than being able to sell the buzzwords?
Yeah.
And at some point, maybe the chaos stops when we start saying, you know what, we expect more out of the candidates that run, and we expect more out of the moral compasses that these candidates should have.
See,
You
but I
know,
think
uh,
that's the problem we're at with the society right now. uh, More so than anything else, it's we don't have. Everyone thinks their moral compass is the right way, is the right compass direction, and I think what it comes down to is people are living in two worlds in the exact same world. We have two different realities in one world, and it's very clear that you can't sway one from the other. Like you either believe this or you believe that. And if you don't believe what I believe in, clearly you are wrong. And I don't have to listen to you. And I can just scream at you and tell you you're wrong until you either walk away or just finally cave and say, yes, you're right. You know?
have you caught now that the phrase about abortion is no longer pro-life; it's stand for life. They stand for life. I don't know if you've caught that, but to stand for life is not as I guess they're trying to rebrand that whole position. And so I've seen a lot more candidates now. I'm a strong conservative. I stand for life, and then they go into the thing. I thought that's interesting how they've tried to rebrand it because they know that that's going to be an issue this voting season.
I,
You know, to
I feel
let's
like
say
that
for candidates.
Being cognizant enough to know that buzzwords like that can make or break you, I think goes a long way. And being
Well,
try to avoid that is it's
I mean,
it's good for them. But at the end of the day, is it too little, too late? Because I think we will see a record turnout in this midterm, and I like to think that it's going to help us start to rectify some of these situations we're putting ourselves in by having razor thin majorities in in our Senate. And to be quite honest, our whole system is broken. And the fact that our system is broken and no one is brave enough in our system to actually say, fuck it, it's broken. We're going to have to blow the whole thing up and fix it. So the best thing we can do is probably hope for an alien invasion at this point.
well, I mean, I will say this though, that for everyone who says that it's broken by our standards. It's still the best election system in the world.
Which is
It's still the best system in the world, as broken as it is, in terms of up until last time, the peaceful transfer of power, and the idea that our votes do count, even as messed up as it still is the best system in the world. And countries try to do it and can't because of um, the amount of a system the type of system that we've created. It's still the best system in the world. So, I mean, what is the alternative? Is a candidate who runs and gets 98% of the vote, right? Like they have in Russia.
yeah,
Putin got 90% of the vote. Really? You really think that he got 90% of the vote? Sure. Okay.
yeah, I know. It's just hard. I understand. Now the educated mind in my head understands that, but it's hard to separate the emotion from this argument though too, because I get nervous for the world that we're leaving to the younger generations, for Janice's girls, for Jameson, for you know all these kids that are going to have to inherit what we're dealing with. And for the lack of better terms, like, they're going to have to pick a side, and they're going to have to go all in on that side, because there's no gray anymore. It's either you're on this side, you're on that side. There's no more in the middle.
Well, I personally believe, and this is just my personal belief, is that I think that the conservative or Republican Party is going to have a reckoning very soon, because the strength of their party is dying off, and the youth of this world do not adhere to the same value structure as the old of this world. And I have a feeling that, and I think that's probably why the Republican Party is struggling so bad right now, because in reality, it's they're tearing themselves apart. If you're a liberal, radical left, whatever, your general principles are pretty much the same in terms of what you want, right? Yeah, there's progressives who want more, kumbaya and all that shit. But for the most part, your general fundamental moral compass is in line. The Republican Party has two tracks right now. You're either the moderate Republicans like a Larry Hogan from Maryland, who's a traditional Reagan Republican, and then you have the Trump Republicans, which are these fringe, more right. Well, at some point, those voters, those are all old people. They're not replenishing their ranks with young people. So
No.
I get a feeling that in 30 years, the Republican Party is going to have to find out how they want to go forward, because I don't see the youth of this country going to become a Republican in 30 years. I just don't,
I
especially
get
on the path that they're on right now.
I get nervous with a lot of these Republicans that are starting to identify as Christian nationalists,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Like, what does
that
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 mean? I don't even know.
well, it's basically it's a Christian version of the Taliban. If you really want to get down to it, they don't. And the fact that they're not smart enough to understand that or see that as a whole different argument for a whole different day. But we are getting close to wrapping up the show today. We understand this went a little political, probably a little more political than we normally do, but these are important topics, and for what we're dealing with as a world right now, it's important that you educate yourself. Don't listen to the ads. Don't read the ads and take them as gospel, man. Take the time, do the homework, research everything for yourself. I mean, that's the only way you're really going to get to the bottom of this, because buzzwords at the end of the day don't do anything but get you in more trouble. So if you've seen
Yeah,
an ad you think is funny, stupid, or just a complete dereliction of humanity, we want to hear about it. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. Or if you have a cool campaign ad for our EP to launch his future political aspirations in Colorado, hit him up on Twitter and the Instagram at liquid_EP.
yeah, I would say this. I don't see what the allure is of running for office. It doesn't sound like a very enjoyable career path. So
Yeah.
I will not be running for office anytime soon. But I will do my civic duty and I will vote because I do feel that if you don't vote, it really diminishes your ability to stand up for, if you believe that you want to be a conservative, you need to vote that way, or a Democrat, you need to vote that way. To not vote and still complain, it takes away your voice a little bit. So I'm gonna still vote. I'm gonna still vote and do my thing. But um, yeah, I'm with you. Some of these ads are it's almost funny because some of these names that come up as candidates, it's almost like, yeah, that just sounds like someone that should be running for office. I'm Blake Master. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
Jim Lehman. Like all these names are like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, that being said, Jason, take us home.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate you. Obviously, have a great day. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid courage.